Hello everyone. This recording will talk about the best vampire weapons and skills. I will try to get through it quickly. Let's get started with weapons. I have noticed that very late game, one-handed is the best. The saber that you get for doing one of the quests does a lot of damage for very little stamina. It is very fast as well. It is good at keeping enemies off balance. If you are going to go two-handed, which I have not done in the late game, then it would be the Scythe. The reason the Scythe is so good is because if you'll notice all those skulls right there is its upgrades. It has 4 damage upgrades total. When you compare that to, say, the axe, which only has 3, or the cudgel that you get pretty early on, this one only has 2. So its upgrades is what makes it do the most damage. It can hit for 462 damage, but it is very slow. It does have a small stun on its, I think it's second or third attack. You'll notice the animation is when Reed hits the enemy with the pommel. So those are your melee weapons right there that really matter. Let's go ahead and talk about offhand. So if you're going to be using the saber like I did at late game, you will pick up this dagger kind of towards the end of the game. The neat thing about this dagger is it's offhand melee weapon, which means it works with a saber. You'll notice that it has 4 upgrades for blood points. So fully upgraded, this thing gives you 25 blood points each time you stab an enemy. Now this doesn't say it, but it does do damage. Only a little though. It's enough to kill really small things, like the ranged units and things of that nature. Okay, moving on to firearms. Believe it or not, firearms actually do way more than the melee weapons in this game. You might be over here looking at this 462 like, how's that possible? Well, it's because of resistances and also because, this is at range, so you're going to get more damage off while the enemy can't, so you end up surviving. But your best ranged weapons are going to be the Parabellum for a pistol. It will eat the bullets. And then you will get the double barrel shotgun towards the very end of the game as well. This thing does an incredible amount of damage, but prior to it, you will run into the pump action, which does less damage but has better reload time than the double-barreled. Now, the reason I kept this around is because of the upgrades. You'll notice this one says it does acid damage, indicated by, or I'm sorry, chemical damage, indicated by that one upgrade towards the right. I have the double barrel set to fire damage as well as the Parabellum. That's due to the fact that most of the enemies in this game are going to be vampires. So this is where you would want to have your weaponry set to. The pump action shotgun was only used in a very clutch situation. I only got a one-time use out of that. But otherwise it's been just my fire weapons or the dagger in the offhand with the saber for late game. So that's really all you have to worry about right there. So kind of think about that because the Scythe is going to be very early on. I think this is like right after the prologue or something like that. I can't fully remember. But yeah, so there's your weapons. Let me go ahead and back out and show you skills. Okay. Very early on, you'll be forced to buy your heal, and unfortunately, it's going to be a thing throughout the entire game for you. So with this, I actually did upgrade with the health regen versus the instant health. This is because the instant health only gives you 200 healing, whereas this gives you 500. This has worked out for me way more than the instant heal. So that's where I went with that towards the end game. As far as these skills up here, I guess you can spend them into them if you want to, but I never did. I only did one just to make sure that I could unlock the other skills over on this side because they required level 3. But if you're going to do it, I do recommend Shadow Mist, not Blood Spear. I haven't bothered to fix that. I'll explain why in a minute. Let me move over to this side, seeing as we're going by levels. I do recommend getting your endurance and health up as quickly as possible. The melee weapons will consume a lot of it, depending on how things are played out. If you choose to not kill anyone, that will be the hardest playthrough for you because there's going to be very little experience in comparison to if you kill everybody. So these should be your priority, in addition to the heal. Anything to do with bite, ignore this. Blood capacity is fine, but ignore the bite. Anything under science is perfectly fine as well. Because the guns can do so much more than the melee weapons, especially late game, there's nothing wrong with spending into extra bullets to carry. As far as the syringes are concerned, those are also great. They provide amazing bonuses. So I would focus on these two groups here, science and body, for when you get to level 3. Finally, when you get to level 10, you unlock the ultimates. Now, I did make a mistake here on this file, but that's because I was brand new to this. So that was to be expected. I bought Blood Cauldron thinking it would be great. Unfortunately, there's just too much stuff that can resist it, and its damage is too low to make a difference. Melee is one of the most resisted damage types in the game. Uh, Blood is right after it, so I did not bother with these ultimates. I bothered with Abyss though. I did learn that even though that there was some things in the game with resistance to it, it wasn't nearly as high as Melee or Blood. The other thing too is it does a ton of raw damage. So even if the enemy that you're using this on does happen to have it, it's still going to do a crap ton. Not only that, it will put a controlling effect on them. It will give you, I think it's 2 seconds of free time to do whatever you want to, whether it be stab them, shoot them, or just simply back off to heal. It is a great ultimate to have. That's just based on my experiences doing a playthrough where I don't kill anybody. I don't know how much experience you're going to get if you do kill everybody. I imagine that's going to take a lot more time than doing a non-killing playthrough, but honestly, Blood Barrier is questionable because you can upgrade it to absorb 3 hits, and from what I've seen, it does help, but its cooldown is so long that it doesn't really make a huge difference in my opinion. The syringes and the other stuff seem to be doing just fine, so I don't see a point in that. Coagulation, however, is a lower cooldown, a version of Abyss, basically. So that's perfectly fine. Spring, I guess, is fine as well, because you have a stun under there, or just tons of shadow damage for 10 blood cost, which is nothing really that bad. So those would be the skills that I would look into if you get past the point of all of this. But yeah, that is the most I have for you. I hope this helps you with your playthrough.